Good evening. Welcome to the Kent City Council meeting for May 3rd, 2022. If you would all please rise and join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Kim, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Ralph.
Here.
Council President Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Core.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? All right, seeing none, a motion would be in order to approve the agenda.
So move. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda stands as published. All right, that moves us into public communications. We have some great things this evening. Employee of the month, and we've got several proclamations to celebrate. So we're going to kick it right off with our Employee of the Month. Every month, the City of Kent employees get together and they nominate one of their coworkers as Employee of the Month. And it can be for a special project or just the way that they approach their day-to-day duties and making sure that they're exemplifying our vision, mission, values, and goals here at the City of Kent. So it is peer-driven, and I think a lot of times that makes it so much more special when you know that it's your fellow coworkers that are supporting you in this nomination. So our our May 2020 Employee of the Month is Christina Shook. She was hired in January of 2017 as an assistant city attorney in the legal department. Her position was reclassified on 1/16/2022 to senior assistant city attorney. As an attorney, Christina provides senior-level professional attorney services and advice dealing with a wide variety of complex municipal legal issues. Christina was nominated because she is consistent, hardworking, reliable, and a true team player. There are not enough adjectives to describe how truly amazing she is. She cares about the city and the people who live here. She also cares about employees and getting things done right. This results in time savings for the city and doing the right thing is in the most efficient manner possible. Christina can always be counted on to be the first one to jump in and ask to be assigned a tough and complicated work task because she wants to be professional and be challenged and have growth opportunity. Christina continuously embraces our values, and we celebrate her as May's Employee of the Month. I will add a little editorial here. She's amazing and very soft-spoken, but when Christina speaks, you know that she has done her homework, and you know that she has been very thoughtful, and I'll tell you, I don't ever want to argue with her. So we're really grateful for all of the work that she does in many of the very complex issues that the city has. So congratulations to Christina, our May Employee of the Month. All right, I'm going to do things a little differently tonight. I'm going to go ahead and go down to the podium and present these proclamations. So as I call your name, if you want to come up and stand, we'll read the proclamation and present it and celebrate all the things we've got going on in the month of May.
There are some seats up here in front.
All right. Kerry, you want to join me up here? Kerry here yet? I don't see him. Okay, I'm going to start. I had the chance to present this proclamation earlier this afternoon up at Ivers, our Ivers up on Benson, and I think that you guys will think this is pretty fun. I know that the room was packed with appreciative family members and customers.
A long time.
Just push the button.
There you
go. Okay. All right. Whereas Kerry Thomsen began working at the original Ivers location on Pier 54 on April 5th, 1972 as a manager when he was 19 years old. And whereas in 1976 he joined Acres of Clams as a cook. where he delighted in cooking meals for Ivor himself. And whereas in 1981, Kerry took over managing the Ivor store on Denny Way, and from there held management positions at multiple locations, including Ivor's Seafood Bar in Coulon Park, Acres of Clams, Ivor's Salmon House on Lake Union, Ivor's Captain's Table on the Seattle waterfront, Ivor's Sports in Safeco and Quest Fields, and managing all of Ivor's banquets, giving him the distinction of working at more Ivor's locations than anyone in company history. Whereas in 1999, he returned to managing the Denny Way store and was there when Seattle police commandeered the building as a precinct during the World Trade Organization demonstrations. Instead of cooking for guests, he spent 4 days cooking for police and firefighters who ate and slept in the store around the clock. Whereas in May of 1999, Kerry moved to the Kent Seafood Bar as unit manager, where he has become widely known for his customer service. It is estimated that he knows the names of more than 1,000 customers and knows what most of them order. Wow. His wife was sharing a story today of they saw somebody when they were on vacation. He said, he's a 3-piece. And I thought, that's pretty impressive, right? Whereas in 2001, he was named winner of the Ivor's Clammy as the Employee of the Year, and whereas his store flies an American flag that once flew atop the White House that was a gift from a customer and a friend. And whereas Kerry has become a valued community member in Kent, where he and his wife Sally live, they have a son, Christian, and grandson, Aiden. Now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim May 3rd, 2022 to be Kerry Thomsen Day in Kent, Washington, to recognize Kerry's 50th anniversary with Ivors, becoming only the second employee in the company's 85-year history to earn 50 years of tenure, and in recognition of his contributions to the Kent community. So was honored to be able to present this today. Yeah. Since I don't see him, I will just share some of the things that we heard this afternoon were the ways that he cares for his customers, his senior customers in particular, and knowing their name, knowing their orders, making them feel very welcome, and has just been really supportive to the community for a long time. So when Ivors Corporation reached out to see if we would do this proclamation, I said absolutely. And the other fact is the state of Washington is declaring today Kerry Thomsen Day in the state of Washington. Wow. So, all right. Our next proclamation is for National Correctional Officers Week. And is Commander McHouston here? Yep. I promise I won't make you speak if you want to just come up and accept the proclamation. Whereas correctional officers are trained law enforcement professionals dedicated to maintaining safe correctional facilities and ensuring public safety, and whereas correctional facilities across the U.S., both civilian and military, public and private, adult and juvenile, are run by highly qualified and experienced individuals with a deep understanding of the challenges within the profession. And whereas correctional officers and employees are responsible for the custody, care, and rehabilitation of thousands of offenders every year, as well as the maintenance of safe and secure facilities. And whereas correctional officers and employees are resourceful, capable, committed, patient, and persistent professionals in criminal justice and in our nation. And whereas correctional officers and employees serve admirably in many different capacities, including jail administrators, wardens, chaplains, nurses, supervisors, social workers, teachers, managers, and directors. And whereas correctional officers and employees teach, train, mentor, counsel, and treat thousands of offenders. And whereas correctional officers and employees provide offenders with direction, hope, and a new focus while assisting with reentry and life outside of this correction system. And whereas correctional officers and employees rise to meet any challenge and serve this honorable profession nobly and admirably, now therefore I, Mayor Dana Ralph, call upon the residents of Kent and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week May 1st through 7, 2022 as National Correctional Officers Week, and join me in commemorating correctional officers and employees who deserve recognition for their service and should be commended by leaders in the profession and the public for the tremendous job they do and exceptional performance of duties under the most difficult of circumstances. So joining us is Commander Diane McHouston from our City of Kent Jail. I just want to say thank you so much for the work that you do. if you think about how hard COVID has been for all of us, think about what it was like managing that closed population and keeping everyone safe. Our corrections officers were responsible for keeping people safe, making sure testing was going, and all of the things that go along with isolation. The work has been tremendous over the last couple of years, and we are extremely grateful for all of that. I'm going to pause here because I heard that Mr. Thomsen came in. So, Kerry, if you want to join me up here.
All right.
I read the proclamation. Present this to you officially. You get to keep it this time.
Okay.
I won't take it back. But would you like to say just a few words? You don't have to.
I would love to.
Okay, we'd love that.
I would love to. As you know, I've worked for IVERS for many years, and it's been a real honor and a privilege to get to know many of my customers as friends and get to know them by their name. So I've been here in the Kent location for 25 years, 25 years in Seattle, total of 50. But the Kent location is a neighborhood, so we have people coming in, I get to know them. In another type of IVERS, like the stadiums or the fish bar location, you can't get to know anybody, but in a neighborhood setting, they come on, have a seat down, it's nice to see you again, so it's been a wonderful experience getting to know people. I mean, totally getting to know people, and because people like to be acknowledged and recognized for who they are. So I know many people by name, and I make it a point to call them by name. So it's been really, a joy for me to serve the Kent community for all these years, and I'm not retiring. I'm not retiring. So, are there any IVERS customers in here? Oh, yeah. Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you. I will see you in the Kent location. So, thank you, Mayor Ralph, and thank you to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's exactly what we mean when we say we are Kent. Right? Knowing your neighbors and taking care of your community. So, Kerry, thank you so very much for your love and service to the city. Okay. Our next proclamation, I'm going to ask Wendy Graves to come up and join me. She is the chair of our Kent Bicycle Advisory Board. I'm going to read the proclamation for Bike Everywhere Month, and then, Wendy, I'll have you say a few words.
Great.
Whereas Kent residents find that bicycling is a popular and viable means of personal transportation, and whereas the City of Kent Council desires to promote and use bicycling as a mode of urban transportation in the city, and whereas the role of the bicycle in Kent is an economical mode of personal transportation will continue and increase in importance in coming years, and whereas bike facilities like the Interurban Trail, the Green River Trail, and the Seuss Creek Trail are intensively used for commuting, recreation, and other bike trips, and whereas encouraging people to ride bicycles decreases traffic congestion, reduces demands on parking facilities, avoids raising fuel expenses, and whereas concerns for personal health, having clean air to breathe, and preserving the planet make the bicycle an increasingly attractive alternative to unrestricted use of the automobile, and whereas the city desires to have an active role in promoting the safety and well-being of those who bicycle for all transportation purposes, now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor for the City of Kent, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as Bike Everywhere Month in Kent, Washington, and call upon the people of the city to support this observance by riding their bicycles everywhere while educating and encouraging others to utilize this mode of travel. Present that to you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
Madam
much.
Mayor. So, thank you on the behalf of the Kent Bicycle Advisory Board, Madam Mayor, and the council. I just wanted to let you guys know that we are going to have our first ever bike rodeo on May 14th, Saturday, May 14th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the YMCA East Hill parking lot. We will be doing different activities for kids to help show them how to properly follow the rules of the road on a bike. We'll be doing some helmet fittings, some helmet giveaways, some fun obstacle courses, and doing some bike checks to make sure that they are riding safe bikes. So we encourage you to let any youngsters you know to come on out and check out the bike rodeo so we can continue this process of people riding bikes everywhere in the city of Kent. Thank you.
Very excited about the bike rodeo that our members of our Bicycle Advisory Board have put together. It should be a great day for just getting out, encouraging people to ride their bicycles, making sure that our kids are staying safe while they're doing it. So thank you so much to all the members of our Bicycle Advisory Board. All right, the last proclamation we have this evening, and I'm going to ask, I know that it's a board member, but I didn't hear who from the Kent Chamber of Commerce is going to join us for the acceptance of this proclamation, as well as the CEO, Zenobia Harris. So, nice. Whereas the City of Kent recognizes Small Business Week 2022 and celebrates the resiliency and tenacity of America's entrepreneurs and small business owners who are doing their part to power our nation's historic economic comeback. And whereas, because the country's 32.5 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in the U.S. every year, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur economic growth in America without discussing ways to support our entrepreneurs. And whereas, for more than 51 years, the President of the United States has issued a proclamation announcing National Small Business Week, which recognizes the critical contributions of our nation's entrepreneurs and small business owners. More than half of Americans either own or work for a small business. And whereas, as a part of the National Small Business Week, Kent Chamber of Commerce takes the opportunity to highlight the impact of local entrepreneurs and small business owners in South King County. Every day, they're working to grow small businesses, create 21st century jobs, drive innovation, and increase access. And whereas the City of Kent and the Kent Chamber of Commerce support our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. Now, therefore, I, Dana Ralph, Mayor for the City of Kent, do hereby proclaim May 1st through 7th, 2022 to be Small Business Week in Kent, Washington, and urge the residents of our communities and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants during Small Business Week and throughout the year.
On behalf of the Chamber and the business community, we really value the relationship we have with the city. And on May 19th, please come to Shower Center between 3 and 7 for our annual Business Expo. Thank you.
Those statistics in that proclamation on small business, I think it's something that all of us need to take time to think about, where they're creating the majority of the jobs in our country, and we all have the choice to visit and support small businesses, and it is a choice. And so my ask is that when you go out to buy something or go to a restaurant, that you really think about that entrepreneur, that small business person that's put everything out there to provide a service to their community, and that we all find ways to support them.
What was that date for the chamber? You remember?
19th.
19th. What time?
3 to 7.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that brings us to the end of the public recognition portion of our agenda, and we will move on to community events. Council President Boyce, do you have any community events?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. For those who may not know, our Seattle Thunderbird have advanced to the second round in the playoff. So, go Thunderbird! Yay! Right. So, do have a home game on May 7th and May 13th against the Portland Winterhart. The tickets on sale now, so Portland is a good game to go to. They got some interesting chat you might like to hear. So, but was a good game to go to. We also having a Kent Expo that hosted by the Kent Chamber of Commerce that we just mentioned on Thursday, May 19th. I think the time was 7. What time did we say? 3 to 7. Thank you. We also have a Wicked Musical Festival on Saturday, May 21st. The Kent International Festival is on Saturday, June the 18th. We have a Exley debut accessory showwear on Saturday, June 25th. A game between the Seattle Thunder and the Denver Rush. And that's a doublehead playoff, and it will be at Accesso Showwear Center. And also a game on Saturday, August the 27th. Then we have a 3-on-3 shootout basketball on July the 9th. And then last all Ford and Mustang roundup will be on Sunday, August the 21st. So, Accesso Showwear, if you have a chance to go to the Children of Thunderbird, please do so. It's a fun game to go to. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to add that this weekend on the 5th of May, not the 5th of May, we have on May 14th, Team Up to Clean Up. So make sure those of you who want our city to be beautified, to look cleaner and nicer, go to our website, the kentwa.gov, and there's information on there. It's easy. You just take a couple of hours on that Saturday morning. The city provides everything that you'll need, the bags, the gloves, the vests, everything that you'll need to clean up. There's going to be a station on East Hill, on West Hill, and one in the Valley. And help our city. Thank you.
All right. Any other community events? Okay. We will move on in our agenda. Item number 5 is reports from council and staff. This is an opportunity to hear from everyone up here on the dais about the work that they're doing outside of the regular council meetings or committee meetings. So places that everyone is representing the city of Kent at the regional table. We all know if you're not at the table and part of the conversation, you don't always, get the things that you're asking for, and decisions are made for you instead of with you. So really proud of my council members that we have here for the work that they do representing Kent across the region. I will start with a brief report. Big news coming out of the Puget Sound Regional Council Executive Board. We've been working on the transportation update for the region for the last couple of years, and that regional transportation plan passed out of the executive board, reported on it here over the last several months, and really focused on sustainable transportation, making sure that we're aware of the impacts of climate on transportation, making choices for bike paths and sidewalks, while also meeting the street road capacity for the region. So proud of that work. Couple of fun things in the last week. Week ago Thursday, I was able to go up and speak to some students at Kent Meridian High School about jobs in environmental work. So things like water quality, salmon, habitat, those kinds of things. And then they toured our Downey Farmstead project down there on 516. Great event and fun to hear all of their questions. Keeping with the job path at Showwear Center, there was a Puget Sound PNW Education and Workforce Summit last week. So an opportunity for, I'm going to look at Zenobia, hundreds of employers and hundreds of kids to come out and make those connections about developing a career path, finding out what jobs are available to them, and really getting a chance to talk to employers about skill sets and ways that they can set themselves up for success. Very, very honored to be able to welcome that group. Finally, really quick, had a chance to tour a company today, one of those family-owned businesses that has grown and prospered for over 130 years, Washington Shoe Company. They make rain boots and a variety of other shoes, but they sell them at places like Costco, those really cute ones with the patterns all over them. They're located here in Kent, and we're very, very proud of the work that they're doing. And again, 131 years that they have been in business, family-owned, and I'm always enjoy the opportunity to get out and learn about the businesses here in Kent. I think we were talking about this earlier. If we had, if there was some way to put like those bubbles over the top of all the businesses, so when you drive by, you could see what's in there, you'd be amazed at all of the great things that are made and sold here in the city of Kent. With that, I am going to look to my right to the interim, not city attorney, Interim CAO, Pat Fitzpatrick.
I'm whatever you need me to be. I'm here for you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. My report's in the minutes. I have no additional reports to the Council, and thankfully tonight we have no executive session, and that's all I have tonight.
All right, thank you,
you.
Pat. Council President.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At 4 o'clock, we had our Operation and Public Safety meeting, a very short meeting. We paid our bills, and then we also made an adjustment to our budget. So that was done during the operation meeting. Also, at 5 o'clock, we had a workshop, and we talked about our transportation sustainability, which includes our roads, right? And most of you probably know we had a real bad winter, lots of water, and our roads are in bad shape. But we do have a team that's going to have a plan together to go and be doing some resurfacing, try to get our roads back in shape. That's going to be happening probably some now, but most won't start until the June time frame. So got potholes and all the little bumpers in the road. Be patient. The team will be working on it. And you think about it, for the city of Kent, you think about all the roads in the city of Kent, it's about a $2 billion access. And that's a lot of work to be done. And when we have rain and it get cold and it thawed out and you got snow and ice, it really impacts the road. So the team is working on that. Let's see here. I'm the chair of the Sound City Association PIC Committee. We took the month of April off, so we didn't have a meeting. I don't have anything to report on that, so I look forward to report on that at our next meeting. However, I do have my council member who are sitting on also regional committees, and I'm going to start to my left with Councilmember Michaud, and she's going to share with us some of the things they've been talking about on the committee she sits on.
Thank you, Council President. I haven't had any meetings, so I will save my report for next time.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Core.
Thank you, Council President. I actually had a few meetings.
Okay.
So I sit on Association of Washington Cities Nominating Committee. The annual meeting will be hybrid, so we will have it in person and a virtual option. And we were testing the voting systems and how at the annual meeting, how the voting will be taking place. So we were kind of testing out different software and things for that. And I will be in Vancouver, Washington on June 22nd conducting interviews for the candidates that are applying for the various positions. I also had K4C workshop, and it was a great workshop. We had presentation on various grant programs, NOFA grant programs, National Culvert Program for repairing and replacing and restoring culverts, Healthy Streets Program, restoring funding of $500 million coming out. And there was a great presentation from City of Bellevue on their roads and their pedestrian and bike safeties, and they have won awards for that. So that was kind of cool. I also sit on Growth Management Planning Council. I serve as the chair for Growth Management Planning Council Caucus. And on our agenda, we had a brief update from Chamber of Commerce, Washington State Chamber of Commerce, update on Washington State Department of Commerce, update on the legislative session. We talked about the various bills that passed addressing long-standing growth management investing issues, expansion of planning and housing grants, state transportation package, and various other things. We also had update on Affordable Housing Committee, their recommendation on accountability framework that Councilmember Larmer sits on. And there were some concerns from some of the members on certification process, which could be burdensome on some jurisdictions. So we are looking at that, and it comes back to us in July. We also had a 4-to-1 program on urban growth areas, and we will be working on that throughout this year. And in my next meetings, I serve on Domestic Violence Regional Task Force that meets on May 10th. I serve as the chair for Puget Sound Clean Air Agency Advisory Council. We'll be meeting on May 11th, and K4C Outreach will be meeting on May 6th. And that ends my report. Thank you.
I'm tired already. Been busy. Thank you. Councilmember Larmer, please.
I sit on the King County Affordable Housing Committee, and we will be meeting on the 18th of May. I also serve on the King County Aging and Disabilities Advisory Council, and we will be meeting on the 13th, this Friday. So I will have reports next month on those.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Council President. I am Chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee. We will be meeting next Monday. I am also Vice Chair of the Regional Transit Committee, along with King County Councilmember Dave Upthegrove. We had a really great meeting on April 20th, and a couple highlights. Metro is working on their fare collection system. Their system is currently outdated, so they are going to be transforming everything into a new ORCA system and a cashless system. So that may seem kind of easy, but for people who tend to only use cash or maybe pay with their phone, there's a lot of complicated pieces that go into that. So they will be reaching out for community output or community input, and we'll have more information as that plan develops. We also had a presentation on moving Metro's fleet to a zero-emission transportation system, and that will be done hopefully by 2035. It's a very ambitious plan, but they are doing it in phases. And some of you may have seen in the news recently that Tukwila opened the South Base charging facility, and they will be adding more bases over time. So kind of excited for that. That's really a big deal. There are currently 1,400 buses in the fleet, and of those, 195 already comply with the zero emissions plan. So more to come on that, and that ends my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Troutner. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I serve on the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority along with President Boyce and Councilmember Troutner. We aren't meeting tomorrow night. That's usually our typical night to meet on the first Wednesday of each month. However, we will be meeting on the 18th of this month. And if you're interested in going, it's at 5:30, and we do it via Zoom. So you don't have to drive to our station. You can just get on Zoom. And to do that, the best way is to call directly at 253-856-4300, 4300. And one of the things that we've been working on here is some of our budget situation and also some of our administrative objectives. We've also got an order. This sounds kind of exciting in one way, 12 new fire trucks. But it takes like 16 months to 24 months to get them because all the different things going on, parts from wherever, and the little chips that you need. So that's kind of my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. And Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you very much, Council President. I'll start with the Arts Commission. I'm liaison to our Arts Commission here in Kent. And the new exhibit is Here Comes the Sun. So for Kent, for the online portal, which is kentcreates.com. You can go there. You can see the past winners. Submit your art, whatever you consider to be art, whether it be food, pictures of your food, dances, music, photography, other visual arts. All of that can be submitted. There are always monetary prizes for the first 5 winners, and the new winners are posted there from the last exhibit. But this one is just starting. Again, it's Here Comes the Sun, and that runs through June 30th. The annual summer art exhibit will take place again this summer, and this time we had 73 applications who submitted 582 pieces of art. So there's going to be lots to see. The winners have been submitted who will be able to actually show their art here. And then we also have the submissions for the traffic signal boxes. So we knew that that was a popular program here in the city. You see the wraps around the traffic signal boxes, which helps defer graffiti and all on those. But we had the most submissions that we have ever had this time. So it's also getting pretty popular out there amongst our artists also. For the Public Works Committee, which I chair, we had a presentation on the Transportation Improvement Program, and that included a report on our program that is a traffic calming program. And what that is, you think that people are speeding or racing in your neighborhood, you can actually call into the city. That will start a process where you talk amongst the neighbors, but there are some studies done, and things like speed bumps, traffic circles, speed pillows, different implements are put into the neighborhood to help slow the traffic if certain levels are met, certain numbers of speeders and speed and all. That was pretty good information that we had from that. And then you often see the bridges, you see the streets, but you don't think about our infrastructure under the street. And so we had a report on our sanitary sewer system. We have the two. We have the sanitary sewer and the stormwater sewer system. So we had the one on the sanitary sewer system and some work that's being done to keep things flowing there. We also have the Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Committee, which I serve on. We had a continuing conversation on the different programs that we are doing, adding back because of the underspend that we had. We cut a lot of programs. We had a lot of programs that through the pandemic had money that they didn't fund, so the underspend, how to reallocate that money. But we also had a great discussion from, you might have heard of Sound Generation, some of you, but we have GREAT, which is an intervention program. It's Geriatric Regional Assessment Team. And what they do, their goal is to be able to help our elders, the senior citizens. It helps them both with their care and just it helps the family. So for instance, you're a caregiver, and I know that there are people here tonight who are caregivers who could use respite help, who are able to find resources of how they can help themselves, because not only is the family member who they're caring for at risk, but that caregiver also assumes a number of risks. So to help them, it helps both with their mental health, with their physical health. So not only the physical, but the behavioral health also. It does things like they had a vaccination clinic. They have a variety of different programs, technical assistance, things that you wouldn't necessarily think of that are out there and available for people to be able to access. So it's made to be a one-stop shop. So instead of having to go to A, to B, to C, to be able to get all of the services, Sound Generations has a team that helps you get to what you need to be able to help that elder or senior citizen. So I'm going to give a phone number in case there's anybody who may want to use those services that you can reach. You can call the Sound Generations, or the phone number is 206-448-5730. It's 206-448-5730. They also partner with some organizations right here in the city of Kent, like Utopia and Mother Africa. They deliver services in a variety of different languages, and I'll give that phone number one more time in just a minute, but a variety of different languages. So if you need help, reach out and get the help. It's out there for you. And that phone number again was 206-448-5730. And we did not have a KCD meeting, King Conservation District, so I'll report on that after we have our next meeting. Thank you.
Councilmember Cord and Councilmember Fincher will get the trophy for being the busy council member since our last meeting. So thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it. Madam Mayor, that ends our report.
All right. Thank you, Council President. Item number 6 on our agenda is public hearing. We do not have one this evening. That brings us to item number 7, which is public comment. Public comment period is your opportunity to speak to the council and mayor on issues that relate to the business of the city of Kent or an agenda item council will consider at this meeting. Comments that do not relate to the business of the city of Kent are not permitted. Additionally, the state of Washington prohibits people from using public comment to support or oppose a ballot measure or a candidate for office. So we've got just over 30 members of the public that are signed up to provide public comment this evening. I want to sort of lay out the guidelines before we get started. We do have several people that are going to be speaking via Zoom, and our clerk will start by calling them first. When we get to the speakers in the room, we will call you up 3 at a time. The first one, if you could come to the podium, and then the other 2 line up along the wall so that we can keep working through the process. I do ask that when you are speaking, you address your comments directly to the council as opposed to the audience, that you show respect at all times to both the members of the audience and the council. And if you could please hold applause or side conversations so that we can focus on what's being said by the speaker. We will have a 2-minute timer set up, and that will be on the screen so you can see exactly where you're at. Finally, if you could please state your name and city of residence before you start speaking, that would be very, very helpful. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have some people on the Zoom meeting. I'm not sure if they actually want to speak tonight. Some people have changed their minds. So I'm going to go ahead and call some from the audience and wait for some of them to respond to my messages.
Perfect.
If you are online and want to speak, if you can unmute yourself and then just wait, and I'll call on you. So the first speaker is TJ Peterson, followed by Sally Ross, followed by Steve Vargas.
Thank you very much, Council, Mayor, Council President. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to talk about the tiny homes.
Name and city of residence for the record, please.
TJ Peterson, and I live in the city of Kent over here on 1st Avenue North, right over by the railroad tracks and the freeway. I would like to talk about the stresses that a lot of folks in the city have been going through. This has been an issue, the housing, the homelessness, people being evicted. I think that a lot of folks over the years have come to you and tried to bring solutions to you and asked for the city to do something and look into the city for relief. And I think that we have a lot of good people now that are bringing a good plan to this. Mother Joyce and the Episcopalians. I mean, they're an established congregation. They're not a radical sect or anything like this. I believe that the city is in a precarious position by prior denial of allowing them to practice their faith under the First Amendment of the Constitution as they see fit on their property. There's a lot of different religions in this city. It's not the government's job to tell what people can do and what they can't do with their own property to practice their faith. I mean, we have Christians, many different types of Christians. We have Hindus and Sikhs and Muslims and non-denominational Christians and people who just want to do good. They're the helpers, as Mr. Rogers would call them. And when I see the city standing in the way of that, of people practicing their faith on their own private property, I find that as problematic. I just don't think that's a way for the city to go unless you have some solutions that we're expecting, and I think the people of the city deserve some action on some of these issues. I'd like to close real quick with some words from Jared Kesner, the Assistant Police Chief. When Kim Shire, our Representative Kim Shire, came and did ride-alongs, one of our first national leaders who did ride-alongs with the Kent Police Department, he said, she is fighting for mental health professionals and body camera support. Jared Kasner, the Assistant Chief, said having those wraparound services is where the solutions come from. The kind of help is a force multiplier. What these people are trying to do is a force multiplier. They're not going to change everything. But if the city wants to limit this, I just think that's really problematic. Quick little closing fun fact on Kim Shire.
Can I get you to wrap up? Your time is up.
Quick little fun fact on Kim Shire I'd like to bring out. She is the only female doctor in the 117th Congress that is pro-choice. That's right. And I think that we really should need to support that.
TJ, I need you to wrap up. We're long over time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sally Ross, followed by Steve Vargas, followed by Jeanette Barrage.
Thank you, Council. I am the Vice President of the Wildberry Homeowners Association, and I'm also the lead for the Wildberry Neighborhood Council. We're here about the Lehigh Village. Lehigh is considering a site that is 11 blocks from Wildberry, and it's at of course, the St. James Episcopal Church, which you know about. Our homeowners believe that the zoning is not right for this project. They also oppose a code amendment. There are 7 developments of million-dollar homes within 1 mile of this proposed village going north on 94th Avenue South. They are the Bandon Estates, the Westview Homes, the 237th Community, Wildberry, 232nd and 96th Street Community, Stonewood, and Rosemary Glen. all 1 mile north on 94th. We are not being elitist here, but we are protecting our property values and the safety of our residents. We're also protecting the city's revenue base because the tax assessment feeds into the city. I listened to Chief Padilla talk to the business community for an hour, and he said that their safety of the business community was important to Kent, and that their profitability was important to Kent. And that message came to the chief from the mayor, and he was very specific about that. Well, the tax assessments for $1 million homes also feed into that Kent budget, and are also, I have to assume that they're also important to the city and also important to the mayor. You can have a tax base or you can have a homeless place. So why are they mutually exclusive? The Christian church on Smith or Canyon has a women's shelter. When they built that women's shelter, it served the women, but the men that were associated with the women established an encampment across 94th from Wildberry. And during that time, there were 2 trucks that were stolen. There were constant car prowls. There were glass broken out of the windows. Personal items were stolen. An abandoned lived-in car was left in Wildberry. The homeless bike patrol from the Kent Police were wonderful. They cleared the homeless camp.
If I could get you to wrap up. Timer's up. Sorry.
We asked the council to please slow this down and consider the neighborhoods and the impact on the neighborhoods. Thank you.
$1 million homes.
Steve Vargas, followed by Jeanette Barrage, followed by Theodore Reinhardt.
Just as a reminder, that timer is up there. It will be very shortly before you start speaking, and never want to interrupt anybody, but if you could keep an eye on that, I do need to keep it fair for
Promise,
everyone.
I'll be short.
So, thank you.
A little nervous, didn't bring my glasses. Bear with me. Thank you for allowing us to voice our opinion tonight. My name is Steve Vargas. I live in Kent, 98042. I'm here tonight because I love Kent. I have a few questions, and I'm here to discuss some recent issues surrounding that homeless camp, and most importantly, to ask the City Council to pause voting on this. My first question is the Kent Police Department ready for this encampment? Are our first responders ready for the increase in calls and crisis that this encampment will encounter? Are the neighbors safe? More importantly, are my kids safe around this encampment? No offense to anybody here, but what makes you think the city of Kent is any better than what Seattle is doing? And I brought 4 articles with me that I'm going to share with you, all surrounding these homeless camps. All recent. It don't take long to get this information. August 23rd, it's a feud. Brand new homeless shelter sits empty as leaders squabble. Magnets for crime. How one Seattle politician's views shifted on homeless encampments. More fallout from Seattle's stumbles on homelessness. And lastly, shooting, stabbing, attack by women at homeless camp. Right here. Mayor Bruce Harrell publicly identified the correlation between crime rates in the city and homeless camps. Again, I'm very concerned for my children. I love the city of Kent. Please take more consideration before you vote on this. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jeanette Barrage, followed by Theodore Reinhardt, followed by Dennis Casadoro.
Hello, I'm Jeanette Burrage, and I live in Kent on 202nd Street, and I'm talking in opposition to allowing tiny houses. I have 3 points I want to make. The first one is they're not going to be safe. We have building codes, which we've had for many years, to protect the occupants, and not following the rules could be dangerous for the occupants and people around who visit them. The second point I want to make is that it's not fair and equitable to allow tiny homes in one place and not another, and for some people, but not others. I might have someone that I want to put in a tiny home on in my yard, but I'm not allowed to do that. It's not fair that you want to give these other people something that you don't allow the rest of us. The third thing is that we need to get to the root causes of homelessness and fix those rather than trying to put a Band-Aid on the problem. Housing costs are high for many reasons, including impact fees, which are upfront taxes that are put on all residential units, which causes the housing to be more expensive. We may need more facilities for drug rehabilitation and mental health services, prosecutors, and police. But I'm asking you to please not allow tiny homes, because letting people break the rules because you feel sorry for them is not a wise decision.
The next speaker, Theodore Reinhardt, followed by Dennis Casadoro, followed by Jan Hurst.
Good evening. I'm Ted Reinhardt, Theodore. I live in Kent. 5 reasons why I am against the proposal for the zoning change. One, very few Kent residents actually know about it. On Sunday, I canvassed my own block. Nobody knew about it. Nobody reads the Kent Reporter, apparently, except me. I was driving on 94th and stopped in at the parking lot of the LDS church next to St. James and just asked a gentleman there, have you heard about this? And he had not. And it's hard to draw a firm conclusion from one person, but I'll bet there are many others there at that very church next door that haven't seen it. I have a question about the funding. If the City Council approves this zoning and King County is kicking into it, then this council is obliging people who live in King County outside of Kent to pay for it. I don't understand that. Legal liability, if a resident of this place damages property or injures somebody, is the city of Kent liable? I'm not a lawyer, just asking the question. I think it's an open question. 4, the outfit that runs these things promises a lot, and I don't have any confidence that they can deliver on their promises. And 5, budgets for these things tend to skyrocket. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Dennis Casadoro, followed by Jan Hurst, followed by Rachel Robinette.
Hi, I'm Dennis Casadoro. I live in Kent. A resident of Westview Meadows, and half of our residents are here to monitor this too, because we're 2 blocks north and we're concerned. We're wondering why we're just hearing about this. It's he mentioned the Kent Reporter. Well, our neighborhood doesn't get the Kent Reporter. It's not delivered. So, you know, I didn't hear about it until about 10 days ago, quite by accident. I think it's there to profit big business. The company that's going to operate it is probably going to, you know, make a lot of money operating it, and I'm a little bit nervous about that. How do you measure the rehab, the people that are living there? Do they have skin in the game? Are they going to operate the place themselves, clean up after themselves, paint, wash, or are they going to be taken care of? I think the residents should have a skin in the game. Our home value is likely to drop. It's not good for our neighborhood. There's no sidewalks on 94th for foot traffic. Maybe 2 or 3 blocks worth of concrete, but the rest of us just roadway shoulder, and the cars speed terribly on 94th. The speed limit's 25, but that's not how fast cars go. Grocery carts are left on the side of the road. People go up to Fred Meyer's shop and leave the carts along 94th. There are apartments available next door. They could maybe live in the apartments instead of building, you know, the tiny homes that are not fully sufficient. I'm worried about the police not having enough bandwidth to take care of our neighborhood. So please think about voting for this.
Next speaker is Van Hurst, followed by Rachel Robinette, followed by Wendy Whitaker.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Van Hurst. I'm a resident of Kent. I'm here to talk about the subsidies that the city continues to give to an organization called the Seattle Thunderbirds. This is getting ridiculous. In a budget information session today, it was disclosed that the city gave out $300,000 for a scoreboard. That allegedly SMG, the city's contractor that operates ShoWare Center, contributed another $500,000 for a total bill of $800,000. There's no way in my mind that that money did not actually come through the city through ShoWare Center. So the $800,000 literally came from the residents of the city of Kent. And then on April 14th, at the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee meeting, the Seattle Thunderbirds had the gall to come in and ask for an additional $70,500 to advertise the city of Kent. On the first round of the playoffs, Kent was not mentioned in any part of the 5-page press release. There was another press release issued for the second round that Council President Boyce addressed this evening. Again, the city of Kent was not mentioned one time in all of that. So what would we get for the $70,500 if it was fully granted? I believe it was reduced by the committee. We would get arm patches on uniforms. We would get a logo embedded in the ice and a sign on a bus. I have relationships with professional sports teams, and I can tell you that 1,000 patches would cost me less than $300. One stencil on ice would cost me less than $40. One billboard on the side of a traveling bus would cost less than $300. So where's the $70,500 going? It's going to subsidize a business that will not rebrand and call it Kent. In the history of that organization, they've not always been the Seattle Thunderbirds. They originally were the Seattle Breakers. They have rebranded. They have the ability to do it again. Thank you.
The next speaker is Rachel Robinette, followed by Wendy Whitaker, followed by Patricia Gray.
Oops. I'm Rachel Robinette. I live in Kent on Woodland Way up on Scenic Hill, and I am here to speak in favor of the tiny home village. And I would like to clarify that it is a village. It is not a homeless encampment. It is people living in small homes, and the number of people is limited. It is not, it is fenced. It is not unlimited, and it is not an encampment where people are living with no sanitation in tents and no supervision. It is a fact that we do have unhoused people living in Kent, and these are not people we can or should ignore, hoping that they will go away. Kent has tried that for years, and we can all see that it hasn't worked out. Nor should we bus or move these people to a different location for someone else to take care of. How is that fair to anyone? Is it okay to make unhoused people someone else's problem or neighbor, as long as they are not my problem or neighbor? Is it okay to make people move from where they live so I can feel better about where I live? Again, I ask, how is this fair to anyone? There are not enough shelter beds in Kent. These people would like to live in million-dollar homes. They don't live in any home. They would like to live in a tiny home. There are very few, if any, that serve couples or families, and this tiny house village is willing to serve both, which is very rare. So here right now is a group within the city limits willing to step up and do something now to help the unhoused move forward. I see posted on the wall that the city council goals are fostering innovation, creating safe neighborhoods and healthy people, embracing diversity, advancing equity through genuine community engagement. This tiny village would do all those. And members of the council, if you choose to say no to this proposal, what will you say yes to? Please let us know so we can work on that. Thank you.
Next speaker is Wendy Whitaker, followed by Patricia Gray, followed by Perry Sobolik.
Hi, Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name's Wendy. I live in Kent at the top of James Hill, 2 blocks from Fred Meyer. I want to tell you Pamela Kerry's story. I met her years ago at my church. A lady at my church had got to know her. She was either in a women's prison or in a women's rehab. And Janet Jo asked her, what do you need when you get out? And she said, home. I need a home. Well, about that time in Maple Valley, a small apartment complex went up for sale. Janet Jo wasn't going to miss an opportunity. She went to the pastor, said, we want to do this. And he said, we'll ask the congregation. We jumped in. We endeavored to raise $250,000 in 10 weeks. The Maple Valley churches were cheering us on. We got 110. They raised the rest of the money, and we formed a coalition together, and Vine Maple Place was born. They started a nonprofit, the expertise needed among them. We got the city involved, the businesses involved, and they set up something with the structure, counseling, life skills, getting them into job training, daycare, what they needed to heal and transition back into the community. It was such a success that a number of years later, another apartment complex across from Lake Wilderness Elementary came for sale, and we all jumped in and raised the money and doubled our capacity. Now, unfortunately for Pamela, she was addicted to drugs, and they knew immediately that they were not equipped to handle drug addiction, so they chose single moms in crisis. But Pamela was able to live on our church property in the trailer for a few years, and she thrived because she had us. She was there all the time whenever the doors were open. But a few years later, she had to move to Issaquah. She separated from us, reconnected with her old life, and fell back into that old lifestyle. Now, Pamela has the government pay all her bills, but she doesn't have people. So I want to applaud the church that wants to do the same thing that Vine Maple Place did. But we need to have that set up with the complete support systems that will make that a success. So I urge you to put it on hold and vote no till it can be done correctly. Thank you.
Next speaker is Patricia Gray, followed by Perry Sobolik, followed by Kyle Layabeveyo.
My name is Pat Gray. I live in Kent on 237th Place. And thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Kent Hope is a ministry of the Union Gospel Mission, and I think everyone in the room will agree that it's become quite a successful undertaking, not the least because we have transitioned over 775 women out of homelessness since we started 8 years ago, and we've expanded to include sheltering of children recently. We have outstanding volunteer participation and outstanding support from our Kent community. We have a low amount of police calls and neighborhood problems, but it was not always so. 11 years ago, a citizens group, which later became Kent Hope, tried to establish services for our neighbors experiencing homelessness, which met with great opposition. We had focus groups and homeless task force and gatherings, and we were denied 4 different buildings over the course of 4 years, until finally we used our own building to start Kent Hope. So here we are again, and a tiny house village is being proposed to provide housing for people who just need a chance and a little help to get on their feet. And there is opposition and great concern. Why are we opposed to helping those who need us, yet count as heroes those who step up and do just that? Why do we generalize and fear when we have the assurance of Lehigh that this village will be well-run, staffed 24/7, and removed if things are not working as planned after a year? Why do we worry about us when we should be concerned about them? And why are we letting history repeat itself when Kent Hope has proved that helping with love can work? St. James has given us another opportunity to reach out and say, we're there for you, let us help you. Let's not let this opportunity pass us by. Please approve the tiny house village.
Perry Sobolik, followed by Kyle Layabeveyo. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Followed by Daryl Jones.
Pronouncing it correctly.
I'm
That's
sorry.
not an easy thing to do. Perry Sobolik, I've been a citizen here in the city of Kent for 25 years. So I'm here today, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to try to go fast here because we don't have much time. But I am here in speaking in support of the efforts by St. James Episcopal to try to create a tiny house village. A quick question to the members of the dais here. Have any of you ever been homeless? Any friends of yours, neighbors, family, ever been homeless? Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. I appreciate that. You know, it's a difficult thing. I've been a volunteer with the Kent Food Bank for over 15 years, and I interact with members of the homeless community virtually every day that I work. You know, if you really believe that there are that many people who choose to be homeless in Kent, people don't choose to be homeless. Most of them don't. We got a lot of NIMBYism here tonight, not in my backyard stuff. You know, if you really believe that the bulk of homeless people are all drug addicts and thieves, then you probably believe that Donald Trump is still the president of the United States. But here's the thing. NIMBYism is born of fear of the unknown, okay? How do we cure that fear? It's information, okay? And who can get that information? You members of this council, not only to inform yourselves about what truly is homelessness and what's involved with it, but also to help inform the public. We talked about the Kent Porter and what it does to try to do things, but you people are responsible also for engaging with your constituency to try to get people to understand what is going on in the city and what they can do to help. If you're homeless, you got two things you got to worry about every day. How do I feed myself, and how do I keep myself safe? Tiny house villages can do that for this. Let's see. I'd also like to see that the city do a little bit more on its own to be participants in this. You do a lot with Catholic Community Services. What have you got against Episcopalians? You know, they're out there trying to help everybody as well. You know, we've helped sponsor 1,000 units of commercial buildings in the city in the last 3 years. And what are you afraid of 24 tiny houses? I know I'm out of time here, and I've got a lot more I'd like to say, but here is what I would like to remind everybody. There's a statement that says, here, there, but for the grace of God, go us all, okay? So without helping others,
Perry, I need you to wrap up.
Thank you for your time.
Kyle Lebedeyu, followed by Daryl Jones, followed by Tanvir Sangha.
Getting better. My name is Kyle Lebedev. Sometimes my address pops up Kent, sometimes Covington. So today I'm as a Kent resident. I'm here today to speak to you, Council, to vote against tiny villages. I'm here to speak to you as a father, as a family man, as a business owner, and also as a person who represents a big number of Ukrainian Americans who resides within the district and specifically in the city of Kent. The whole idea of tiny housing is actually quite opposite of helping those people. It actually will promote a different agenda. It will promote living out of someone's pocket, a free living, especially for the people who don't want to get out from the streets. It will be just a golden opportunity to pack that city, and it will drag here much bigger homeless population, which will result in spikes of crime, unsafe and unstable conditions for our communities. Instead of doing this, we should start, like someone already mentioned, with the root of the problem. It's not a secret for a lot of us that the root of this problem, homelessness problem, it's a drug or alcohol addictions, it's a mental health issue, and in some cases, it's a very hard life circumstances. So if we're going to find a way to address those issues, we're going to fix the problem. So I want to politely ask you to vote against tiny house villages. Thank you.
Daryl Jones, followed by Tanvir Sangha, followed by Don Keltz.
Daryl Jones, and I live in Kent. First, I want to begin by saying I must echo the sentiments of Mr. Reinhardt in that I wouldn't trust Lehigh to manage a lemonade stand, let alone another tiny home village. Lehigh managed Licton Springs, in which the neighborhood saw a 103% increase in crime after the village had opened. And they too had security on site, which they'll also have at this proposed village. But security personnel only monitor what happens on site. Once a resident leaves the village, security will not stop them from basically plundering and pillaging the neighborhood. Now, Council President Boyce said in an interview on April 7th that we, meaning the council, need to work through what is best for the homeless and for the community. But I must respectfully disagree. The job of the council is to represent the members of your district and the desires of the majority in that district. Homeless people are not your constituents, and I don't believe that their needs should be taken under consideration by the council. They're transients that gravitate towards whichever city offers them the best benefits with the fewest restrictions. They have no vested interest in the prosperity of the city of Kent. Now, if council members and others want to help the homeless, then they should do so in their roles as members of society and volunteer their time, donate their money, make your personal property available for the use of the homeless. What you should not be doing is disregarding the desires of the majority of constituents by forcing your will upon them. If the majority of the residents, many of whom are unaware that this is even happening, but if the majority of the residents do not want a homeless village thrust into their neighborhood, then you should not do so. For it's not just about giving the people what they want. It's also about not giving the people what they do not want. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Tanvir Sangha, followed by Don Keltz, followed by Frank Kolowalt.
Just a reminder about the applause. Thank you.
My name is Tanvir Sangha, and I'm a resident of Kent. Mayor Ralph, Council President Boyce, council members, I want to thank you for the time today to speak. I'm a homeowner in the development across the street from the St. James Church. I want to start by stating this is not an us versus them debate. There have been attempts to insinuate that because homeowners in our community have taken their hard-earned money and purchased homes, that there's opposition to provide relief for those who need it. Those ideals are not mutually exclusive. The challenge is not whether or not there is a need within the community to address homelessness, but rather, is this the best location for it? As Kent's mission states, there's a commitment to building a safe, thriving, sustainable, and inclusive community. Safety is the first value listed. Our community is not nervous at the idea of helping those who need assistance. Our fear and frustration stems from a lack of communication and a lack of care for our own feelings. It's not easy to canvass the surrounding area of the church and ensure all residents are aware of this proposed build-out, and you won't hear any arguments from me on that. However, I walked the neighborhood last night and still found a majority of neighbors who had no idea this was being proposed to the council. I offered to them the location of the meeting for today and the church's website for the presentation. But it begs the question, why is there such a rush to pass this proposal? Do we do so at the expense of those who have invested into our community? In order to effectively plan, all possibilities need to be addressed, especially those which bring the highest level of concern. It seems we're being dismissed and being labeled as elitists and uncaring for asking these questions without getting clear answers. There are even some neighbors who are looking to move away from Kent because of this proposal. Como News published an article on April 24th stating there was a tiny home community built in Rainier Beach that now sits empty because the Regional Housing Authority did not provide grant for operational funds. It stated that the Lehigh organization did not provide a competitive bid. Well, what's to say that won't happen here? There's no guarantees to how this is going to go, and how the intent is in the beginning to go might not be how it lasts and continues on in the future. I've seen other tiny home communities in Olympia and Seattle, and they're not the best communities. But it's not easy to say a blanket statement either. I love my community. My wife and I are expecting our second son any day now. I want for my wife and I to feel comfortable and safe for our sons to grow up in Kent, and that's why I ask you to find another location for the tiny home proposal and delay the vote. Thank you so much.
Don Keltz, followed by Frank Kolowalt, followed by Joshua Halbert.
Hello, City Council. Thank you very much once again for letting me speak. I am from Kent, 98042. I hold in my hands a newspaper, the Seattle Times, from Sunday, April 24th. And right in the first page, there's a homeless shelter article by Danny Westneat. There's lots of information in there if you have not read it. But the most important thing is that there's been a tiny home village that was built in a place in Seattle that has sat empty for weeks as of the date of this, because there's a squabble going on between the housing authority, Regional Housing Authority, and the group that has said that they are going to be building these tiny villages, okay? So I don't know the background for that particularly, but I can say this based on what I'm seeing. It's who pays when these things are built. It's who pays when things go astray. The answer is it's going to be taxpayer money. It's going to be monies that have been coming from some volunteers and things like that. But taxpayers are one of the basic ones. That particular village needs $700,000 a year to operate. And that money comes from somewhere. It's not from the people who live in the village. Okay, my objection is slightly different than most of you. My objection is that taxpayers should have no obligation to pay for others' housing. I think there are no laws in the federal, the state, the county, the local that say taxpayers have to pay for housing. My belief is that charitable institutions who receive money from willing donors or from businesses that want to promote themselves is the source for money for these things, not the taxpayers. So, anyone who lives in one of these, as has been stated by one of the other folks that had spoken before me, should be required to meet obligations, whether that's work fare, whether that's helping in the village, whether that's going through treatments, whatever it means.
Don, I need you to wrap up.
Thank you. Good day.
Next speaker is Frank Kolowalt, followed by Joshua Halbert, followed by Sean Close.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Frank Kolabiak. I live here in Kent. I'm the president of the Stonewood Homeowners Association, and I'd like to address the rezoning and the amendment of rezoning for the St. James Church property. Primarily what I'm interested in is the homeless folks, that they're getting a fair shake for what we're getting into here, that they get health care and that they get medical health care also, so that they can do better for themselves. And the people involved in this, of course, is LHI as a developer, St. James as a church. They'll be leasing the property, and City of Kent will be involved in it also. So everybody there has a big financial interest. And what I'm interested in is the monitoring of the program. What happens if the program fails? Who's going to pick up the tab? Who's going to clean it up? And who's going to take care of it? And then where do the homeless people go? So my proposal is, this is just my proposal. I'd like to see an escrow account, or an escrow account or a trust fund set up where 25% of the revenue from the church will go into the trust fund, 15% of the gross revenue from LHI goes into this trust fund, and it'll be managed by the other 7 or 9 homeowner associations. And this money then, if after say 5 years everything goes well, the money will be returned back to the church and back to LHI. But if it fails, we'll have at least a little bit of money to cover some of the costs of cleanup and taking care of the homeless. Because I understand this is only going to be good for 1 year contract. If it's only good for 1 year contract, what happens after that, and who's going to pay for who's going to pay for problems after that? Does it fall back to the city? Does it fall back on the church? Lehigh is going to be long gone, so I would probably say the rest of us are going to be stuck for the money. So I'm really interested in seeing that the homeless folks get their fair share. I don't want to see them getting a nickel or dime or quarter out of it. I want them to get their fair share out of the $1 million of grant money that's in there.
Thank you.
Joshua Halbert, followed by Sean Close, followed by Martin Pieskowitz.
Hi, my name is Josh Halbert. I'm a resident of Kent. I want to talk about the tiny houses, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I found out about the project about a week ago and emailed all of you shortly after learning about it. I can see the site out my daughter's bedroom window. She's 13 months old. We've lived where we live about 5 years now. It's usually my responsibility in the family to put my daughter to bed. I only see her for about 2 hours every night after I get home from work, and I'm sacrificing that time today to be here to speak with you because that's how much this means to me. I sacrificed the same amount of time last night installing security devices on my downstairs windows and patio door. I worked in public safety in downtown Seattle and Capitol Hill for about 9 years of my career. Nights, days, everything in between, 24-hour shifts sometimes. I know what it's like to interact with homeless. I understand their challenges. What I've also seen is that the more resources that are put towards solving the problem, the worse the problem seems to get. That's certainly what happens in Seattle. And I live in Kent, not Seattle, for a reason. As leaders in the city of Kent, I encourage you to lead from the front. And what I mean by that is the decision that you make surrounding this will impact people who live closer than you do. I might not be speaking for all of you, but I know that there are people in here who live probably less than 100 feet away from it. I live a little bit further away from it than that, but lead from the front. If you're going to do something like this, make sure it affects you before it affects your residents. And please don't betray our trust by acting so quickly on this. There's nothing that time can't heal. And give this the time that it deserves before you act. Thank you.
Sean Close, followed by Martin Piskowitz, followed by Panjoy Kumar.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for hearing us again. I want to say, it's amazing to see the community support tonight, to see the community come up and speak, whether you're for or against. And I think that's the powerful part. I think what we're going to hear over and over again is we need to slow down. We need to hear the facts. I have tried to partner with the church in Lehigh and pass out information to get our neighborhood to hear the facts. They have changed meeting dates without notice. They have not let us join in on those meetings. They've accused us of several things, including corruption and causing money to stop this bill. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know who's been corrupted or anything else. More so, I've been threatened with lawsuits for sharing an email by the Reverend Joyce because she attacks us, and I want the community to know what her words are, what she refers to us as, the people that live around her. Now, if this is what we're going to be greeted with just sharing information, how can we trust that the safety of our neighborhood is going to be cared for by the same church? If we're going to be threatened with lawsuits for sharing information, we're going to be villainized by asking the question, we just want information. Invite us to your meetings. Let us know. We set those meetings, and then all of a sudden they're changed. That scares me. That's why I stand in front of you with our neighborhoods and ask you to slow down, to think about this. Is this the right thing? We all know, we all agree homelessness is an issue. We know it needs to be addressed in the community. But what is this ploy that's pushing it so fast for this one church to push it forward? Is it finances? That's what I ask. Then we look at Lehigh itself, and in 2020, Seattle itself accuses them of circumventing the process. We see that as the community, we're not being communicated to, we're not getting the meetings that we're asking for, and that's why I'm asking the council just to slow down and hear everybody.
Martin Piskowitz, followed by Panjoy Kumar, followed by Rebecca Riffle.
Hello and good evening. My name is Martin Piskowitz. I own and live in a house on 94th Street down the street from the proposed tiny house village. I work here in Kent and hope to raise my children here in Kent. Told you this before, and listening to all of this, there's been a lot of fear, a lot of miscommunication, a lot of people that have made assumptions, and I just want to express my enthusiasm about the modification of the ordinance that you're considering that will allow the tiny house villages to be built. I've heard a lot of people concerned about safety, and to be honest, if I didn't know about the vetting process of the inhabitants of the tiny house village, I would be scared too. I live in But to live in a tiny house village, you can't have a history of drugs. You can't have a criminal history. From what I understand, the tiny house village at this location will be more vetted than all the HOAs here, including everyone here. I've said that before. These people are just Kent community members, people that have lived in Kent, that may never have been homeless before. These are people that for the first time may have missed a mortgage payment and now are homeless. First time missed a rent payment and now are homeless. They don't know how to live as people that are homeless. This is not a homeless encampment. This is a place where we can catch people before they become homeless. This is a place where we can provide a safe neighborhood. A safe neighborhood. If you push it out onto the outskirts of town, it's not safe anymore. If you push it into a place where people don't want to live, well, that's not safe anymore. And just because they don't have money doesn't mean that they are less than us. They deserve the right to, be able to be on their feet again. I just wanted to say that this is about the ordinance. This is about making it in Kent, anywhere in Kent, be able to have a tiny house village. And this is not something that's really hotly debated before today. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we actually heard the HOA president that lives closely to this place speak in favor of having it somewhere else in Kent. I just want to express my support for the modification of this ordinance, and thank you.
Panoj Kumar, followed by Rebecca Riffle, followed by Inderjeet Singh.
Thank you for the opportunity, and my name is Panoj Kumar, and I live in Kent. And I speak against having tiny village in the community. I would like to bring certain things that happened during last week where a lot of miscommunication happened from the other side, where they changed the meeting without letting us know. They changed the timing of the meeting. They are telling us they haven't stopped canvassing, and they are still canvassing that. I mean, today is the voting. Today they are going to vote, and they say they are still canvassing. I mean, it has to be stopped 2 weeks back. The brand has reached, the property's values has gone up in last 2 years. The property tax value was 140K in 2019. It went up to 500K in 2020. And that's why the houses became $1 million houses. Someone in here told that we will not let Kent become Bellevue. Why not? I mean, when are the aspirations gone? Being aspirational become bad. I mean, today I have a Toyota. I would like to have a Mercedes tomorrow. I mean, this is absurd that they won't let Kent become Bellevue. And they say that they had 2 tiny villages in Tukwila. I mean, they did such a bad job on communicating with us. I don't know how good job they are going to do on security. I mean, I don't know if they have communicated in Tukwila. They might have just gone to council member and got approval from there. We don't know that. And they talk about these are only the 72 houses in our community which are opposing this. No, we have reached out to different housing owner association in our community in half-mile radius, and everyone is not in favor of this. Lastly, I want to say, how do you want us to remember you guys? When we see someone walking down our streets up and down frequently, when we see someone sitting on our curb, and we are like, hey, is he there? Is he gone? Should we call the cops? Or where did he go? Should we check the backyard? If you go crazy, how do you want us to remember you guys? When we see someone sitting in our private community park, when we see break-ins in our community, how do you want us to remember you guys?
Sir, I need you to wrap up, please.
And when the school rating stays same as last year, how do you want us to remember you guys? Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebecca Riffle, followed by Inderjeet Singh, followed by Charles Howard.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Riffle. I live on Kent. I live in Kent on 94th Street, the street related to the proposed tiny house village. I want to start by saying thank you so much for listening to us. It's a lot to hear. A lot of people have come up and poured their stories out, and I really do listen to all of them and appreciate all of them, for and against, and all of the thoughts that are out there. I can't imagine the pressure on you guys to hear all of our stories, all one after another. So just thank you so much for listening. This is a good city where we feel heard. I took up 30 seconds to say that because it's worth saying. I stand here in support of the village. It is on the street where I live, and I fervently believe that helping those who are temporarily unhoused helps our whole community grow more resilient. But just thank you so much. I don't have a lot of data or stats to hear. I love hearing all of your stories. Please keep telling your stories and keep listening to everyone else's stories. We have a lot of great things here to share. So thank you all so much. Thank you.
Inderjeet Singh, followed by Charles Howard, followed by Jamie Nelson.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Inder Singh. I live in Kent, a few blocks from where the tiny homes are. So again, just like last time, no one spoke up regarding the preschool that's in the same building, actually across from the parking lot where these tiny homes are proposed. I talked to Mother Joyce after our last meeting, and she mentioned that they have the approval from the preschool, which I double-checked it wasn't the case. We went back and forth, and Mother Joyce agreed that they would reach out to the preschool and the parents. Ty mentioned in our meeting on Sunday they reached out to 25 parents. When I dropped off my daughter, I checked, that wasn't the case. They're not even aware that any such meeting happened. So last time I asked for data that supports in favor or against it. None of the data supports the tiny homes. And the data that was presented to the neighbors, it's been, sorry to say, it's been the lies. They said they reached out to the neighbors, majority of the neighbors, that it was word of mouth. So we reached out to our next door neighbors and we told them. We didn't see any flyers, nothing of that nature. So also, one of where we ended our last conversation with the church was Mother Joyce said the 72 houses that got built on the hill, uphill, disrupted the church. And when I asked how so, she never responded how the 72 new houses disrupted the church. So a lot of questions not answered. Again, anyone can go online and look at do research. None of the articles, majority of them, where the tiny homes were, never worked. They ran out of funding after a year, and then in many cases even locked the cities out of the tiny homes. So I stand here with the rest of my neighbors to request the council to please vote against this proposal. Thank you.
Charles Howard, followed by Jamie Nelson, followed by Josh Castle.
Before my time starts, council, if I may, the commander I do not see back there right now, but I did want to pass on congratulations to her. And the reason why I wanted to say that is I used to be a warden for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I actually work for Homeland Security, which is something my neighbors don't even know. So now I guess you can start the time.
Your neighbor know you work for Homeland Security too.
Yeah. So if I'm letting this out, that means it is quite important to me in regards to what I'm about to say. I just was one of the few that was made aware about this this transition even being in play as late as Saturday, actually. I'm not even prepared, but I don't need to be because I'm going to speak from the heart. I moved from Newcastle to Kent. I was a little hesitant at first because who really wants to move in an area where you don't really have the background in regards to the education, but when you see a Bonds place across the street from a school, it's one of those telltale signs that things may not be okay. But I gave it a shot because of the history of Kent and how it was back in the day. So moved into the neighborhood in Abandoned Estates. It was safe, family-oriented, made sure I surveyed the whole place, made sure that everybody else had kids before I brought my kids into a situation that was not going to be safe. Over the last couple of years, it's been an increase in crime over and over and over. Even as late as this crime scene that happened down in the park the other day. And then you've got homeless people that are more and more that are starting to gravitate up the hill and going through the neighborhoods. I'm driving down the street with my fiance, got the 3 kids and the 4 kids in the car, right? It's like the Brady Bunch and the Cosbys. I'm driving down the street, and then all of a sudden you got homeless just walking down the middle, and actually, and I don't get terrified of people because it's just what I do, but they're quite agitated and for no reason. I mean, you're talking about 3:30, 15:30 in the afternoon, and why are they so agitated? And now you're just seeing more and more of this. And, you know, it's coming left and right from 99th and West Part and down from the southeast corner. And it's actually become a little bit more prevalent, like it's comfortable. The police, believe me, in my background, I know, they're really not trained in mental health. And not to say that all homeless are mental health or in a position to where they really can't respond accordingly, but they are challenging. It's putting the police in a bad situation, and it's putting us taxpayers in a bad situation, especially if you have to put the homeless and lock them up. But you're going to have to release them real quick, too, because it costs too much money for the city to keep them.
Thank you.
Jamie Nelson, followed by Josh Castle, followed by Reverend Dr. Joyce Perry Moore.
Good evening. I am Jamie Nelson. I'm a proud resident of Kent for 46 years, King County and Kent as part of the Panther Lake annexation. I would like you to be aware that the St. James parishioners were also not informed any sooner than any of these neighbors that you've heard from. Also, that the neighbors that are aware are minimal, as you've heard tonight. The news has been slow in getting out. This has been a rushed and confused with no discernible process, no lead time, no direction to follow, not to mention whether this is something with which our many current leasees can coexist. We have been receiving a lot of mixed messages, as you've also heard tonight. I'm here tonight because my main ask is this. Would you please send this proposal to the hearing examiner? And I'm also asking for a temporary use permit with conditions, with enforcement behind them. Our church and our neighbors need enforceable conditions should things not go as to plan. The City of Kent has spent over 2 years working this proposal with Lehigh and Ty Whitfield of Kingdom Gathering, and it appears to be a good plan. You've done your homework, and you've been trying to find solutions to our homeless issue. The uncertainty of funding, as well as the recent information regarding the empty tiny village in Seattle, is making an already conflicted and confused situation worse. Finally, Lehigh has the capital funding from the state budget. However, future operating funds are looking insubstantial and unguaranteed. It rained COVID money from municipalities last year, and that was wonderful, but that's only, one-time deal. If it takes $800,000 to $1 million operating expense to support a tiny house village annually, where will that money come from in the future? St. James cannot provide it. The $5,000 monthly lease amount St. James would receive will help reduce our budget deficit. The last thing needed at St. James is an empty tiny house village with people attempting to break in and live as squatters. We already have that issue, even without a tiny house village.
I need you to wrap
James
up,
has had
please.
declining membership, thank you, for multiple years. I would estimate that we currently have approximately 50 families, of which about half are able to volunteer their time and energy. And currently we are very stressed, and I doubt our ability to adequately support this venture the way in which it should be assisted. While St. James will not be directly involved in running the tiny house village, if it is successful, St. James will be positively recognized. If it is not successful, we will be the GOAT, and I am not talking about Tom Brady. Thank you.
Josh Castle, followed by Reverend Dr. Joyce Perry Moore, followed by Aquatopia.
Hi, good evening. I'm Josh Castle. I work for the Low Income Housing Institute. I'm the Community Engagement Director, and I'm a neighbor just north of here in Dequilla with my partner. I want to just clarify a couple things about the St. James Village, and I didn't put together a big fancy speech. I'm just going to hit some points. First of all, I would encourage people to read the Guardian article, which is titled "No Link Between Villages and Crime Rates." They found that on average, crime did not go up around tiny house villages. Secondly, there is a strict prohibition on drugs and alcohol. This has been urged by Reverend Dr. Joyce Perrymore from the very beginning because of the programs they have on site. The program will serve families and refugees many refugees from Afghanistan are coming to Kent. So it's going to serve those populations, and it's going to serve those who need to step up. It's not serving those. It is not at all a low barrier site. So anytime you heard that, that is not true. This is a stepping stone to permanent housing. That's the point of the program. It's not permanent housing. It's a stepping stone. We have the highest rate of exit of permanent housing of all shelter programs. That's been true year after year. Our case managers, answering a question earlier, provide access to health care, permanent housing, employment. We have 24/7 staff, cameras. We do perimeter checks. We take security very seriously. We have a community advisory council that you guys are invited, the neighbors are invited to join, which will provide oversight and support that exists for every tiny house village, all 16 from Bellingham to Olympia. Secondly, or another point, 10 out of the 16 villages, 63% of them are in residential neighborhoods, and all of the family villages are in residential neighborhoods. So if you heard that that's not the case, that I want to just make sure that's clear. Somebody mentioned Licton Springs earlier. That was operated by another organization. We actually took over Licton Springs working with the city because it wasn't going well. And another thing that you guys should know is that this morning we got news that the King County Regional Homelessness Authority is funding South End Village. So anything you heard otherwise is not the case. They're funding South End Village. I want to make sure that I thank Reverend Dr. Joyce Perrymore and Ty Whitfield and Peter Ostrander and the church and the whole community and all the neighbors who have been so engaging with us. Please reach out to me. Let me know.
Mr. Castle, I need you to direct your comments to the council, please.
Thank you. And thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Dr. Reverend Joyce Perry Moore, followed by Aquatopia, followed by Peter Ostrander.
Good evening, Mayor Ralph, Council President Boyce, council members, staff members, and neighbors. You've already heard a lot about me tonight. I'm the Reverend Dr. Joyce Perry Moore, proud to be the rector of St. James Parish, where indeed the majority of people have expressed support of this. We have a changing congregation with more and more young people and families and millennials who are concerned about making meaning in their community. And some of them are here tonight to speak because they were so convicted about this project. My family and I are also proud homeowners, as many people are here tonight. I used to feel proud. These last few weeks have been really disheartening and enlightening. I'm concerned that our city is preparing to turn away $1.2 million in county funding and an opportunity to create safe transitional housing for a low-risk population who currently needs housing now, not in 2 years. They need it now. That's what the rush is about, is to help people. I'm afraid that we've kind of lost track of what's important here. It's not to argue with one another, but to bring help and support to those who need it now. That's more important than politics. It's more important than who said what to whom and who quotes who. I had some other remarks prepared, but I'm going to finish with words from the Judeo-Christian Bible, which I don't often do because I am Episcopalian and we don't do that very often. But I will read to you from Matthew 5:10-12. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. We will not stop fighting for those whose voices are not here tonight, and those are the people we are here to serve. Whether you like me or not, that shouldn't matter at all. Thank you.
Aquatopia, followed by Peter Ostrander, followed by Jacqueline Blankenship.
Hi again, Talofa. My name is Ayatupu Vienna, and I am a resident of Kent, and I work in Kent as well. I think from previous conversations we've heard folks talk about safety, their own personal safety, and I'm sorry. And I often think of like what safety looks like to each person here, right? The definition of safety that we teach our kids, right? Whether it looks like protecting our kids from people who society and, the city has deemed unworthy and disposable. That is the definition of safety that our children will operate from, right? And we like to teach our children that people are inherently good, and we understand that people are just surviving, right? People are just trying to rebuild and take steps for a future that we currently have presently in this room, right? Future of safety, right? And a lot of these folks are people who deserve to be safe, right? And we talk about keeping women and children safe from whom? Safe from other women and children who have been, facing domestic violence, safe from LGBTQ youth who have been kicked out of their homes, safe from other Black and Indigenous families of color, right? That's not the community that we live in. And we know from the pandemic, as we move out of this pandemic, let's not forget the spirit of giving, the spirit of community that pushed all of us together to keep our communities safe, fed, and housed, right? All of our communities, both sheltered and unsheltered. Also, there have been conversations about permitting issues. We've been innovative during this pandemic, and I'm sure we can continue to be innovative in our approach to finding solutions to keep everyone safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Ostrander, followed by Jacqueline Blankenship, followed by Ty Whitfield.
Council members, my name is Peter Ostrander. I currently reside in Auburn. I'm also currently the Minister of Community Engagement at St. James Episcopal Parish. In that capacity, I provide some direct services to people that are in need in our community. They are constituents. They reside in Kent. I provide them gas vouchers, thrift vouchers, and sometimes on occasion, if we're able to, utility support. I don't have much to say for myself, but I thought it would be important for you to hear from the voices of some of the people that send me emails soliciting support and assistance from me, either as emails or phone calls. These are voices of the people that come through us. And ironically, these are all people just within the last 10 days. This one person, I came across your website while Googling places that may be able to help my son and I with a few things to help us get back on our feet. Recently, we left a toxic relationship, and with a lot of thought, we felt like it was an opportunity for us to leave, and we took it. Although we are safe now, we only know one person that can give us help. I'm working hard on gaining employment and have apparently recently applied for food stamps, but there's still a gap between my benefits and my ability to support myself. We are currently staying in the car and are lucky enough to be able to shower. I was asking for help at the moment. I have no choice. I need fuel for my car to get to my interviews and also to keep warm at night. Another person just recently reached out to me. I came to find out they had recently sought political asylum, and I am looking for help with rent. I'm a bit desperate because I don't have the full amount of money to pay the rent. My husband has worked very little. He is sick from diabetes, and recently my family contracted COVID. Can you please help me? These people will possibly face eviction. And where might they go? Where are they going to go? Where can I send them? Another one. I have another family that came in, all adults, and they recently were evicted from their home, but because they were all adults, they all had to sign the lease agreement. So they all have eviction on the lease agreement. They can't get out from under that. They're living in a hotel, spending exorbitant amounts of money to pay for their hotel while they're working desperately to try to gather. You can't collect enough money doing that when you're paying exorbitant hotel fees. Where should they go?
Thank you.
Jacqueline Blankenship, followed by Ty Whitfield, followed by Ankita Goal.
Hello, council members. My name is Jacqueline Blankenship, and I live near the Tiny Homes Project in Kent. I support the Tiny Homes Project and think it's an excellent idea. A great start at fixing the ongoing homelessness in Kent. People are concerned about drug addicts bringing trouble to the neighborhood, but we don't allow or condone any drug use. Any and all tenants are required to pass background and drug tests. Security is also going to be on site to maintain the premises and ensure a safe environment. So rest assured, all tenants will be thoroughly screened. We want the neighborhood to be safe. I have personally gone out into the surrounding area to speak with residents. Many are supportive of the Tiny Homes Project and happy to hear something's being done to help get these resources to people in need. Homelessness is not a disease. It's the tragic reality that people are facing currently due to financial loss and inability to pay rent. This could happen to anyone. Nobody's immune to it. To act like unsheltered people want to be homeless is absurd. We all need to see the bigger picture here and lend a hand to those in need. Show some compassion, and to treat others how we would like to be treated if we were facing homelessness and losing our homes. We have the chance to make a positive difference in Kent, and I want to open your eyes to see this as an opportunity for growth and change. Thank you.
Ty Whitfield, followed by Ankita Goal.
Hello, my name is Ty Whitfield, live in Kent, 11305 Kent East Hill. Man, I guess in order to pack our city hall, I guess we just got to talk about we're going to put some homeless people in your area. But here's the thing. I'm not going to spend my time really talking about how we need homeless, because you guys know that we need support for homeless. You guys asked for us to come to this meeting because obviously you're proposing to extend this project for another few years. My question to you is, what are we going to do in the 3 years that you're not proposing this? Now, 2012, we went through this big thing when we brought the shelter here, and the business community didn't want the shelter. We don't want them here. We don't want them here. We went through all kinds of issues because of that. But Kent Hope came, and we have a shelter here. 2015, you guys did an executive summary plan. And let me give a quick paragraph of that. There are still gaps in the system. This came from our city council in 2015. There are still gaps in the system that is part of our result of current economic crisis. There are more homeless now than 5 years ago, including youth and young adults, immigrants and refugees, families, and veterans. This is from the third party that you pay for to come and do a system check for homeless. So my question to you is that's fine that you extend it, but what are you going to do? If you're just going to put it on a plan and just have it just sitting there and not do anything about it, because that was 2015. So what's going to happen is though there's not going to be the same people that's in office, we have people that's leaving out trying to say that they want to do senator work but don't want to do nothing right now for your own community work. I'm asking you, if you don't do anything about homeless right now, because it's not the responsibility. We should not be fighting each other. This is our city council responsibility, not the community going at it. So we have to come together, our city council have to come together with a plan so we won't go through this. And I love you guys.
Our last speaker is going to speak remotely, and it's Ankita Goal. So if you want to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ankita. I live right across the street from St. James Episcopal Church in Kent. My neighbors and I have already expressed our concerns regarding the proposed tiny house village at this church and are against this proposal. But I just want to reiterate that we are not against the concept of tiny house village. I'm glad there is something out there like Lehigh to help who are in need. But the problem is the proposed location. This is a residential area like within 400 yards from the church. And considering the nuisance and possible criminal activity it will bring along, because Kent PD has already mentioned that crime will possibly go up by moderate level, so it doesn't seem to be an ideal location for it. We all know there have been misinformation and lack of awareness within the community, so I believe we should not rush into this. I'm sure we can research and find better locations for such projects where nearby neighborhoods are not directly impacted. So I would request you to reconsider the location for the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was our last speaker.
All right, thank you. I want to say thank you to all of you for coming tonight and sharing your opinions and your experiences and we heard it, your stories earlier. This is exactly how this council becomes informed and makes decisions. So again, I just want to say thank you to everyone and thank you for all being respectful this evening. It's an important part of the process here in the city. Okay, never an easy segue. The next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. It's a compilation of items that the council has worked on at committee meetings. They've had an opportunity to ask questions, receive presentations and information, and it's passed out of committee without controversy. We've got consent calendar items A through H. Is there a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 9, other business, is consideration of whether to direct staff to prepare a zoning code amendment that would allow tiny home villages in Kent, and if so, in which zoning districts. Do we have a brief staff presentation? Okay. With that, I am going to turn it over to Council President Boyce. I see him pressing his button.
I'm working.
Got you. You're good.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, once again, I like the mayor, appreciate everybody coming out and sharing their passion and their thoughts around this particular item. I would say that I, like the rest of my council, received numerous of emails, read all of your emails, and understand exactly where you're coming from. With that said, I'd like to make a motion, and I'd like to speak to my motion. I move to direct staff to review housing available for all income levels, including all forms of transitional housing, permanent supporting housing, indoor emergency shelters, indoors emergency homes, as part of the city comprehensive plan updated process for council to consider in 2024.
If there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Council President Boyce, would you like to start the discussion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be supporting this motion. This is a tough thing that we have to abide by, and I really appreciate everybody coming and talking to us. I want to just maybe back up just a little bit. I took a lot of notes throughout this conversation tonight, but I want to back up and just kind of give you a backstory of how we are where we are today. During our retreat in February, we as a council discussed what our yearly plan is going to be like, and we talked about what is on the council agenda for the year going forward. As a council, we agree that we was at a capacity for what was on our plate or what we could take on to work. I would say that Councilmember Fincher, at the council meeting, she reached out to the council and talked to us about Lehigh and want to update us about Lehigh and ask could we have Lehigh come to one of our council meetings to update the council member, because some of us was not aware of what Lehigh brings to the table. And I want to thank council member for doing that. We as a council worked within our agenda to try to find a spot to have Lehigh come and speak to us at our council meeting. Also, I want to add that I went with council member Fincher to get educated. I visit one, I should say, of the tiny homes in the Seattle area with council member Fincher to educate myself. I also want to say, once we decided that Lehigh will come and present to us, I must say during the presentation, Lehigh presented their PowerPoint presentation, and it's too surprising to me, at that workshop, it was said that the council was going to be approving something, this year presentation of tiny homes. And I think that's what kind of got people going in the community going, because people who live in the neighborhood was not aware of this particular presentation, and also assuming that there would be a action from the council from the workshop, which we don't take action from a workshop. So it's pretty obvious that this upset some of the neighborhood in the area, and at the time we had several meetings since then, and they began to voice their opinion even through emails or coming to the meeting or here on the TV. I want to say that there's a process that whatever the city do, we have to follow a process. And even if we say we want tiny homes today, and we all agree, it would take 3 to 6 months to implement that process. 3 to 6 months to implement if we decide we want to do it today. I strongly believe the best approach for the city is to look at this here from a citywide approach, a holistic approach. I have nothing against tiny homes. I'm about process, how we go about doing it. And there would probably be a tiny home in the city of Kent, but we will do it the right way. We will follow the process. Everything we do here is process driven. and we'll follow the process. We will make this part of the comprehensive plan to present to council. Now, I heard people say what the city is going to do. Well, the city does a lot through their human service program. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars we allocate, and the council even raised that even more so recently to put more money into that program. There would never be enough. There will never be enough. We do care about the homelessness, but we're going to do it the right way before we actually move forward. I want to thank you all for your emails. As I said earlier, I read through them. I heard your story. I feel your story. And last but not least, this council is not against tiny homes. This council is going to do it the right way. And when we open this process up, it's the whole city going to get involved. The whole city will have a chance to make comments and thoughts on how we move forward and what we want this city to look like. And for that reason, I will be supporting my motion, and I would end with that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Corr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your busy day, coming down to speak to the council, writing to us. Like Council President Boyce said, we read every single one of your emails. And I want to thank you all, the community leaders, Lehigh, St. James Episcopal Church, for being here, for working with us. While tiny homes are a great concept, and while I understand our unhoused residents, specifically our families struggling, they need the support, we definitely need to look at the whole picture. So I do support Councilmember Boy's motion, because I have issues, as Council President Boyce just said. This was supposed to be an information session, and I don't know when it turned into this, like we have to vote on it now. It felt really rushed, and we have to go through the whole process. We have to look at the concept. We need to address the crisis of homelessness in our long-term plan. And we certainly have human services budget allocated to support various nonprofit organizations in the community, including Kent Hope, so that we're serving our populations. I'm actually at Kent Hope all the time, volunteering and providing dinner to those, to the women who are there and helping them. And we all know homelessness is a serious problem, and we need to solve it strategically. So after hearing also the concerns for lack of communication, miscommunication, all that, it was hard. It's hard to, hear that. But, I support Councilmember Boyce's motion, and we have a lot of work to do. And hope all of you will stay engaged in this process like you were right now, because the work is not done yet. So you're not here 3 years from now all surprised if it comes up, in the project where it's going to be. So I think it's best to stay engaged and participate in the conversation so that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So I was the one who brought Lehigh and this idea to the council, and I still stand by it as a good idea. I did it because, first of all, I found out about the villages, looked at some presentations on the villages, went and visited several of the villages, talked to some of the villagers and staff, and have done my homework on the villages, including knowing about Liechtenstein and the other one that they inherited from someone else, from another organization. And in those villages, people did not have to sign the code of conduct. It was a harm reduction model. We are not talking about bringing a harm reduction model. We're not talking about bringing a low barrier model here. If you know about HOME, the Women's Homelessness Shelter that was at Holy Spirit Church, which is across the street, or if you know or visited Kent Hope, those were homes for women, or shelters for women, and also Kent Hope was for women and children. That's who would be there. It was mentioned about drugs and needing recovery. People would not be allowed in. There's a screening process because this is high barrier. they would have to pass a screening process. And in the screening process, if you know, well, there's an organization here that's, what, a few blocks away, 3 blocks away, that would also, that the people here would have to go through a mental health screening also, because it's not going to be the people that were necessarily walking down the street or with the mental health issues. There's going to be children there. So they too want their families safe. These are families that may have one child because there's not that much in there. And it was asked to me, well, they don't have running water. Who would want to live here? My retort to that is, would you rather be under a tree by the river, or would you rather be in one of these that has a locking door, that has electricity? Which would you rather be? The person had to answer in one of these. So it's not ideal, but I welcome all of you because I too am going to be supporting Council President Boyce's motion, because that I do strongly believe it should be part of our comprehensive plan. But for me, I also don't want to wait 2 years. So I want to spend time that's between now and then educating, as was said earlier, continuing to educate. And I've led several tours already of tiny house villages, of the ones that are close to what we want to do, not the low barrier, because it's a waste of my time going there. We're not bringing people in who are drug addicts, who have criminal records with violent offenses, and alcohol. I think those were the other things. Although I do have to mention, I cannot think of a career field that does not contain alcoholics, does not contain drug addicts, whether it's the priest or the person in the pew, whether it's the judge or the criminal on the other side, whether it's in the police department or the hospital. People have problems and fall down and need our help. And what I think with tiny houses, from what I've seen, they have the wraparound services. They have the 24-hour security, and the wraparound services would be the help to get people any sort of medical help they need. It's the counseling that they need. It's the job services that they need. There were people here and people who I met who originally were homeless, but now work for them, now work for Lehigh or for other places. So I am going to, because it's getting late, I am going to cut this short, but I am going to spend my time, and I will say it again, anybody, I don't even know you, but I would welcome taking any of you on a tour. I will set up a couple of dates if you want. And you can even choose the village, but one of the ones not one of the low barrier ones, and it has to be Lehigh. There's lots of organizations who do housing. I'm only talking about Lehigh. And I wish those 13 houses, or the 40 empty houses, were actually here in Kent, because we have people to fill them. That's not the case, and that's not going to happen here real soon, because they're right. It has never been on an agenda for a vote. So there was some information that went out that it was a vote. That was not correct. That was our information session. But I thought it was a good idea when I brought it to the council. I still stand by it as a good idea. And I hope that some of you take me up, or all of you, on that idea, because I would love for you to see what the villages actually are like, that there's not trash strewn around, that the people who are going to be here are much like the people who were there before. And I'll add that having more people up there, more eyes, which is people who are going to do wrong, they don't want to be around a bunch of eyes. They don't want a bunch of people watching and seeing what they may do. So in talking to some of the neighbors, they have neighborhood councils with these villages, it has actually helped their neighborhoods. That's something else that'll be part of the education process as we go forward, to be able to have you hear from law enforcement who is already in touch with the villages, from neighbors in the surrounding areas. But anyway, thank you very much for coming tonight, for being involved in this process, because being involved in your city is very important. There's lots of other issues, so I hope that we hear you on those too. And even if you can't come here, you can do like the folks did and write in or call in. Let us know what you think on anything. Anything. We want to hear and we want to listen. But that is it, Council President. Thank you.
Glad you kept it short.
Oh, me too. I didn't go into my NIMBYism, which I was going to go into.
All right. Councilmember Larmer, followed by Troutner.
Thank you. I too want to express my continued support for this specific project at Lehigh and St. James. I support this project specifically, this location, this organization, because of the strict screening criteria for residents at this location. That criteria includes background checks, screened to be free of drug dependency, mental health issues. St. James has only ever proposed housing the clean, the sober, and the mentally stable residents of Kent who are simply in need of housing because of circumstances in their lives and they're falling through the cracks. Throughout this process, and yes, it started as supposed to be informational and it's evolved into something quite different. But throughout this process, we've been asked in email and in comment if we would want a tiny house village in our neighborhood. My response to that is a tiny house community of clean, sober, young adults and families and seniors that are simply waiting to get on the list and be for these affordable, truly affordable permanent housing to become available. That we don't have a lot of that stock. It's a long wait. But a tiny house community of those residents is, in my opinion, infinitely safer and more humane than what we have today, which is a lot of unknown, unaccounted for, unserved individuals that are here in our community already. They are residents of Kent, but they are, because of lack of these options, they are living in our tent encampments or in their vehicles. They're in our community, in our green belts, in our bushes, and parked along our trails. So they are here, and I do believe that offering an option to this, to the high barrier, the clean, sober people that just need help. I think that is what community is about, and that I would hope is what Kent is about. The fact is, rents are not decreasing, wages are not keeping up, and not everybody is blessed to have the family support systems when they hit a road bump in their lives. We know evictions are a leading cause of homelessness, and according to published sources, Kent has the most evictions of any community outside of Seattle. This means that more people are falling through the cracks in our community than anywhere else in the South End. So the problem of the working poor, those that are clean, that are sober, but simply can't afford housing in Kent or are facing housing barriers, it's only going to get worse. But we have heard our neighborhood, we have heard the neighbors, we have heard the $1 Million residents loud and clear. You do not want poor people in your neighborhood. We understand and we have heard you. And we, I think, are committed to taking more time. I will be supporting this motion tonight because I don't see a path forward otherwise without the political and neighborhood will to support this solution at St. James. So I will be voting for this because even though it is in some ways pushing the problem out 2 years, I see it as our only path forward to start addressing the problem of unsheltered residents in Kent, because this problem is regional, it is here, it is not going away. So I will be supporting that tonight. And I will conclude by saying, for residents that are sleeping in their cars tonight, I want you to know that we do see you. My personal heart hurts that we can't help you sooner, but I think we're all committed to finding a path forward at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I mentioned earlier this evening, I am chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee for the City of Kent, and I've been talking with our director, Kurt Hansen, and we have a lot of work underway related to Kent's Housing Option Plan, better known as KHOP, which, council members, you've heard us talk about this many times over the past year. In an upcoming meeting, we will be discussing some of those important changes being developed and relating to Kent's middle middle housing shortage that was initiated last year. So I please ask that you stay tuned to those discussions. We will be discussing a lot as a council, and in that committee itself, we will be discussing some of those shortages and the issues that we know that we have. As everyone else did, I want to thank all of you for spending your Tuesday evening with us, probably this past month for many of you. You have been engaged in the community, and that's really important. It's one thing for people to have concerns or to have issues, but to speak up and to share your concerns and your thoughts in front of people really says a lot. And I know that you all care about this city, and I just want to acknowledge that I really appreciate the time that you have spent and your thoughtful comments that you've brought before us here as a council. Lastly, I am not comfortable supporting this particular project as it's been presented to us this past month. I will be supporting the motion that we have before us this evening, and I really do look forward to having those conversations about where we go and what direction we take moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, this is truly democracy in action, and I really appreciate the fact that we have sides here to talk about it, to come to some kind of meaningful compromise, perhaps. Prior to this evening's meeting, I was asked by one of my fellow council members how I felt about this project, and I said, well, to be honest, if we had to vote on it tonight, I'd be opposed. I missed one early meeting because of some health issues, but 2 weeks ago I was here and heard pros and cons, much like tonight, and again, I appreciated everyone and their input. But I hadn't heard enough. I hadn't gone through what President Boyce talked, the process, and I think that's what I was missing. And so I needed more time. I needed perhaps to go on a tour with you, and because I like to do that. I really like to get out there where it's happening. So I will be supporting this as well. I'm kind of like Councilmember Troutner. I just want to see this process go forward. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to learn some more. And then as far as this evening, though, I will be supporting your motion, President Boyce. Thank you.
Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank everyone who has spoken and written us emails. I know it can be really difficult and challenging to come up and speak in front of the council. Can be nerve-wracking. I understand that. So thank you. I really appreciate you. I will be supporting Council President's proposal. By making this part of a comprehensive plan, there will be proper public outreach and ample opportunities and notice to residents, which I think was unfortunately lacking in this situation. As for this particular project, I cannot support it without the residents' support. Even if council was to agree, it would still have to go to a hearing, and it could still be denied due to the significant amount of pushback from residents. So until we can get that support from the residents, I cannot support this. That said, I know that there are good people working behind this. Ty Whitfield, if anyone can do it, it is you. I truly believe that if this project happens, it's all thanks to you. You're out there doing the work. So until we can get the residents' support, I can't support this particular project. However, I will be supporting putting it into the comprehensive plan.
Okay, any additional comments before we call for a vote? Council President.
I just want to add one other comment. You know, one thing I want us to think about, the one note that I wrote down, we keep saying these people and those people. And I just wish we kind of look at that from a different approach. Because I think any of us could be one paycheck away and could be homeless any day. So try to think of something else besides these people and those people. Thank you.
All right. With that, there is a motion and a second. Discussion has concluded. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. We have two bids this evening, South 212th Street Preservation Project and the 2022 asphalt overlay. Joining us is Public Works Director Chad Bieran.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Let's give it just 1 second.
Yes.
I think we've got a few people that are... Apparently, these bids are not as exciting as the previous topic. No, it's been a very long night. I completely understand. All right, Chad, let's go ahead and go. All right, first bid, South 212th Street Preservation Project.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, two bids tonight. First bid, South 212th Street Preservation. This is a project that we applied for federal funds for 2 years ago. Got the federal funds and have a significant amount of the money for the project in those federal funds. So we actually got $1.5 million. You'll see from the bid it came in under that amount. Our original estimate was about $3 million for the project based on the length of the project. Once we got into it, the engineer's estimate came down to $1.7 million. We also got word last week that there is more money available coming from the region. So we are working right now with SRC staff and WSDOT, or Washington State Department of Transportation, highways and local program staff to see if we can increase the federal share, which is something that we did on the 212th Street project between 72nd and 84th. So the award tonight isn't necessarily affected by that, but the amount of money we get reimbursed could be. So we'll keep council apprised of that as we go forward. However, again, this is from the Green River Bridge over to the west city limits. And looking forward to, that was just one slide, looking forward to awarding to, with council concurrence, to Lakeside Industries. We received 3 bids. Low bid was $1.38 million on an engineer's estimate of $1.57.
All right. Any questions for Chad? Okay, seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor, I move to award the South 212th Street Preservation Project from the Green River Bridge to Aurelia Road to Lakeside Industries, Inc. in the amount of $1,380,875 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next bid is the 2022 asphalt overlays.
Excited to have this project going to the 2022 asphalt overlays. As shown on the map, a number of locations around town, a combination of overlays. And we do have several more chip seals. We've been feeling good about the chip seal that we did on Lake Fenwick Road last summer. It's holding up well, so we're going to try another series of that. As Bill Thomas discussed earlier in the council workshop, it's a fairly economical way to extend the life of our pavement, so we're going to try another section of it. That said, also included a number of curb ramps for compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So bigger project. This is funded through our solid waste utility tax and B&O tax. 4 bids received. Low bid from, again, Lakeside Industries for $3.88 million on an engineer's estimate of $3.72 million. Mayor asked earlier at the council workshop, we're seeing a little bit of inflation. We are starting to see the asphalt prices creep up. They're about 12 to 15% higher than they were last year based on the price of oil right now. So happy to have this one ready to go now.
All right, any questions for Chad? Okay, seeing none, a motion would be in order.
Madam Mayor, I move to award the 2022 asphalt overlay project to Lakeside Industries, Inc. in the amount of $3,851,364 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the city attorney and public works director.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to item number 11, executive session. We do not have one this evening. So at the very end of the agenda, item number 12 is adjournment. Again, want to thank everyone for their participation in this meeting tonight and the discussion and decisions made here by council. This is what the process is supposed to look like. Again, thank you all and have a wonderful week. We are adjourned.